for our audience members that may not know what's going on right now, because we have a wonderful, elegant, different voice that has joined us.
Oh, yeah.
He is from across the pond, some might say. And his name is Wesley Louis, and he is an animation specialist and fascinating guy. So I just want to say that real quick and then send it back to you, Chill.
Okay.
Well,
He is the director, co-owner, founder of the Line Animation Studio. I have been a fan ever since I've seen his work. I'm wondering why I'm not seeing your work in movies or on TV, but
it will happen. I'm working on it.
do you want to get to that, by the way? I mean, we're going to your influences and stuff in a little bit, but based on the work, the sheer quality of it, the lines, breadth, scope and breadth of work, how come we haven't seen your work on in a wider audience, expanded audience?
I think it's just timing, really. I mean, we started off so there's 6 guys at the line, so I'm one of them. Well, 6 founders, but the company is growing year by year.
Right.
But I think it's just timing. So we do have our own kind of IPs and stuff. So Grand Piton is one of them. Ninja Rabbit, Joyride. We're working on a game at the moment as well. So I think it's just, this time next year, you're going to probably start seeing things, or at least seeing some sort of announcement of, something that's longer form.
Right.
So yeah, but I think just us working in advertising and doing game trailers and that kind of thing,
right,
helped us to build up our skill set, how to kind of handle action sequences and do character design, all that kind of stuff. So
basically getting your pipeline into place for bigger things.
Yeah, exactly. But it's definitely an ambition. Not all of us have the same ambition. I think some of us just like working on commercials. They can work on a commercial for 3 to 6 months and then just be done with that. And then I think there's a couple of other people in the company that they're interested in trying their hand at long form, series animation, or even feature film. I'm one of them. I do want to try and do a series, but yeah, that's I think that's easier said than done, but we'll get there, definitely.
On a completely related note, Wesley, do you have any intentions of making your way over to America anytime soon?
We've been speaking about this for a while, actually, because we actually do have representation in by a company called Free Agent in the States and stuff. So, and there's other studios we want to visit out there as well. We've got friends in. So even before all this COVID-19 stuff happened, we were planning to actually come out and go to a couple of studios. We were planning to go to New York and LA as well. So it's definitely something we've been talking about, but for whatever reason, either a job comes up and we can't leave, or
right,
global pandemic. So, but yeah.
I think that'd be a good idea. I think you guys could raise some serious capital here with a crowdfund or something. Now, the key element to that is you need to make sure that they see your face, right? Because you got an Idris Elba thing happening, and hear the accent. I'm looking at the comments right now, and let's just say that the American ladies are showing you quite a bit of love.
Really?
I think turn that into financing. I just want to put it out there for you in case you didn't know.
Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting that at all.
So you're pretty. Yeah.
I am taken, by the way, so sorry. But,
so I got to do a related to studios. Which animation studios do you take influence from? Like Studio Ghibli, Madhouse, a Production IG. What studios influence you on the animation side?
Yeah, all of those. Bones, Studio Trigger,
right.
Disney as well, DreamWorks. I guess I more towards Japanese studios, but
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like a Western influence in there as well. There's another one, Studio Ponok, which is like a kind of, I think a lot of Studio Ghibli guys left and started their own studio, which is Studio Ponok.
Gotcha.
And there's another one as well.
Which one's the one that burned
Studio
down?
Studio Colorido, huh?
Which one that burned down or had a fire? I forgot which one.
Oh, that was I think it's Kyoto Animation Studio, or I might be getting a name. I know it's based in Kyoto. I just don't know. I can't remember the name of the studio. So.
Right, I'm forgetting myself. I'm sorry that's sidetracked. No, what was the last studio you were talking about?
Studio Colorido.
Okay.
So they did I think the last feature they did, or I'm not sure if it's the only feature that they've done. It's Penguin Highway.
Okay. You said Bones. Was that Sirai no Moribito and Sword of the Stranger? Is that Bones?
They did Sword of the Stranger, yeah. Full Metal Alchemist as well.
Okay. They do a great job with action.
Cool.
Yeah, they're incredible. They what else do they do? Zam D. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's yeah. So they do like a lot of like intro sequences as well.
Great.
I think they've worked with Yutaka Nakamura a lot, who's like anime action god. So
I got to mention this though, Powerhouse Animation. They did with the vampire Netflix series.
Oh wow.
Why am I forgetting that?
Castlevania.
Yeah, they did what 2 or 3 seasons of that. They're a local studio from Austin, and wow. So what do you think about the American versions of anime that you see?
And what are some of the major differences? Yeah.
when you say American version, I guess I'm not very clued up on American anime studios, but I guess the only thing I can think of is probably something like Avatar or Legend. I mean, I know it was animated in Korea, like Studio Mir or Mir. I never say that word right, but I think I mean, Voltron as an example, I think looks incredible. But I don't know how their production works, whether they did all the designs and look of the show, all the pre-production in the States first, and then
push it off.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much, because Studio Mer does have their own kind of look and their own style. But yeah, I think especially like you see a lot of influence like from Japan in the States. Like if you look at a lot of like even the DC animated movies and stuff, and the boarding and like some of the character designs on that, like Phil Bourassa and Chris Copeland and those guys.
Based on what you're saying, like a lot of character setup, the series Bible, all that kind of thing is done here. Then the rest get kicked off to even in India, Korea, Japan, that kind of thing. But do you know about the Boondocks, like between the first and second season?
I watched the first. I haven't seen the second season. I watched the first season. I actually bought it when it was out on DVD, so I made sure to pick that up. But I haven't seen it in years. It's something I actually wanted to go and revisit, actually, because I haven't watched it in such a long time. But I'm pretty sure that was animated in Korea. I could be wrong. Sorry if I am, if I'm getting it wrong out there. But
the first season was done in Japan.
Okay.
I forgot it's Madhouse. I'm not remembering correctly, but there was communication differences between the U.S. and I think Japan, and it was so bad. The communication was so bad they actually switched to another studio for the rest of the 3 years past that.
Okay.
So have you ever dealt with that as far as different cultures going across and trading off IP, that kind of thing?
No. it's something that we've spoken about internally. So I think if we were to go and I mean, any shows that we develop and stuff, I mean, my ideal or my kind of thinking was like, yeah, like let's do a show and then like we send it off to Japan and get those guys to animate because they're the best and all this kind of stuff. But then just thinking about it, like we've spoken about amongst ourselves, it's like, well, we're an animation studio and we're pretty good, and I think we can get a lot of, like, we work with a lot of people around the world and stuff. So if we can kind of do the production in London, because those types of, you don't really see kind of action anime shows come out of London. You mostly see it, you might see it in like a commercial form.
Right.
So another studio I can think of in London is Golden Wolf. They do kind of like this sort of actiony sort of animated thing as well.
Right.
But if we could actually do an entire series with that kind of feel to it in London, then I think I'm more excited about that. Like, just, I guess showing the world that, British animation isn't just Postman Pat and Peppa Pig. You know what I mean? It's like
something cheeky.
we're interested in a lot of things, and I think I mean, obviously, if we do a production, we might not be able to. Let's say we had a series and it was like 8 episodes, we probably would only be able to do 2 or 3, but then maybe outsource the rest or something. But it's definitely something.
My dog like Peppa the Pig. Don't dog no Peppa the Pig.
I'm not dogging, but my niece loves Peppa Pig. She loves it. So.
I wanted to ask you something. If y'all have already gone into this, I apologize, but I wanted to ask, how did you get started doing animation, and kind of what led you into taking that into a business route?
It's a bit of a long story, I suppose. For me, I mean, I've always been,
You have time, go for it.
That's cool. I've always been into drawing and stuff, so I've been drawing like as young as I can remember, since 4 or 5 years old. And I think what got me into it is, like, I think when I've been into animation for a very long time, but I think it's when I guess hit my mid-20s or something that I realized that you can actually do this for a living, sort of thing. So I went back into study. I mean, the short story is I went back into study because animation and drawing is 2 different things. I was good enough at drawing, but animation is like a completely different skill set. Just because you can draw doesn't mean you can animate, and just because you could be an incredible animator and very bad at drawing, like I've seen, which is surprising. But if you think about like a lot of incredible computer CGI, like animators and stuff, they might not be great at drawing, but their timing sensibilities and their posing and all that kind of stuff is like second to none. So,
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I went back into study, and then I think after that, I worked at my first job actually after studying was on The Illusionist. So it's a film by Sylvain Chomets. So the production was based in Scotland. So I lived out there for a couple of years, and I was just doing what we call in-betweening. So it's basically like, if you have an animator, they're doing like all the key drawings, and then you would be an assistant doing all their in-between drawings and stuff. And I learned a lot.
You're the grunt work. You do the grunt work.
Huh?
You did the grunt work, man.
Oh, I did the grunt work.
So you did that stuff, 1s and 2s, and based on how many frames you did would dictate the smoothness or the quickness of the animation.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not just the smoothness. It's like, because the animator would dictate the spacing. So sometimes it's not about how many drawings you have, it's about how things are spaced and timed as well. But yeah, I learned a lot. I'm glad I kind of went that route, because I learned a lot from just people that are, have 20 years of experience on me and all this kind of stuff. So I learned a lot. And because you're getting different animators' scenes and having to kind of in between in their work, you're learning different things and taking the things that suit your sensibilities.
Right.
And after working on Illusionist, I actually met Tim at university. So Tim McCourt is one of the founders of the line. And I think after I was working in Scotland, I came back to London, and like he wanted to do like a short film idea. So it's we made a film called Drawing Inspiration together. So that was like, we thought we'd finish the film in about 3 months. It took us about a year, but I worked on that with him. And again, I mean, you can watch the film online. It's radically different from anything I do now, but again, on that short, I learned a lot. And I think from there, I did some freelancing, and then I met up with the rest of the guys on other freelance jobs, and we decided to get a studio together just to get a space so that we could, you know, we just, because I was tired of working from home. So it's like just renting out a space in London, and we could, you know, we're not necessarily we weren't a company at this point or a collective, but we were just like, you know, if I'm working in a job, I might ask for advice from one of the guys, or they might ask me for something. And then we got this, like, we was very fortunate to get this opportunity to myself and Tim to direct a music video, and the other guys happened to be free, and we just hired them on the project, and it worked so well together. We decided, like, let's, you know, we should start a collective, and that's how the line was born. So we was just like 6 guys just making cool stuff for about a year or two, but then probably about 3 years, and after that it got to a point where we were like, you know what, we should probably either we do this seriously or we stop.
So this works. And
yeah, we did it seriously, and you know, we started a company, the 6 of us, put some money into it, and then 3 years we're still going. So
we had someone ask a question. If you could please elaborate why just because you can draw doesn't mean you can animate. If there's any
okay. So yeah, so animation and drawing, they are 2 different skills. So what's a good example? So a good example is like, so when we were studying, I remember when we were given an exercise at when I was studying at university, and the teacher gave us it was kind of like a coin that we had to draw around, and we had to animate a bouncing ball, but we had to use the coin as our template. So we had to use draw the coin sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And that was where I just couldn't hide behind drawing. So I could move things around, and because it's drawn well enough, you think, oh, well, it's animated nicely. Whereas someone else might not have the same draftsmanship skills, but they're moving things around. It looks a lot nicer. So it's harder to see. But if you do the bouncing ball test, you can see straight away whether someone's a really good animator or not. And I was one of the bad ones. Like I couldn't get it. Like other people were making their balls like move so smoothly, whereas I couldn't use any tricks. I couldn't use like line weight. I couldn't use volume and all that kind of stuff. It was just like literally a circle, and making that circle move and giving it personality, because we had to also animate the ball, giving it different characteristics. So one was a bowling ball. I think the other one was like a beach ball. And then I think the third one was a ping pong ball using the same shape.
Okay.
And some people like made their balls feel really light or really heavy, and I just couldn't. It just didn't feel right. So that's when I really understood that, okay, I have to switch off my drawing brain and try and understand what movement and what animation.
Basically, the 12 principles of animation. That's what brought your work over the top. And you're better at
basically, but I didn't really. I think the 12 principles of animation, like I came to it a lot later, actually, in my animation career, because I think, I mean, for one, the line hasn't really done anything that is necessarily like super narrative driven, where you have to, like, if you look at Disney, for instance, Glenn Keane, prime example. When he does a character, or James Baxter, it's like the characters look like they're thinking, like you can see it in their eyes, there's emotion, whereas what we do is kind of like very action oriented. Not everything we do is like that, but you're not having to think about character and their motivations as deeply as you would if you were doing a feature film. It's not to say that we can't do that. So 3 of the guys, for instance, they've worked on feature films as animators. So we have the capability, but I think just the commercial work that we've done so far hasn't really needed that. I mean, I guess our earlier films has had some of that, you know, that kind of character thinking, like changing their mind about something and doing, but it's almost like now that's where you bring acting into it, and that's when you bring like emotion into your work rather than just the aesthetics of something, or how, you know, cool an explosion is, or how like cool a punch is, or whatever. So
how did you meet the other founders?
yeah, so Tim I met while we were studying. So Tim McCourt, so I've known him the longest, and then the others I met like freelancing. So Tim was working, I think he was working on a job at a company called Partisan, and he met the other three. It's funny because the other like one of like Bjorn, I've always known about Bjorn, I've always known about his work, but I'd never met him in person. So he was working in Scotland on the Illusionist, and he was doing like, he's an incredible art director, so he's doing backgrounds and all this kind of stuff. And I was doing in-betweening at another studio, so we were working on the same production, but we never met. So it's just crazy to me that now, like, you know, we actually own a company together, and you know, he's worked on my projects, I've worked on his, and
Right.
yeah.
And how long do you think between when you met the first person to when everything got started?
So I met Tim 2007, I think 2006, 2007, and we started the company 3 years ago. The line actually being a company.
Right.
So I guess 3 years before that is. So yeah, we've been together about 6 years.
Right.
I would say.
Okay.
Give or take a year, I might be
right.
getting something wrong.
Okay. So what do you see as the future of the line?
Well, we're working on our own IPs, so I'm working on Piton at the moment.
Right.
I can't say too much about how far that is, but
I don't mind.
I don't there's a couple of people that
would do a world premiere right here. You want to make an investment? I will be happy to see that. Just saying.
Wait a second. So who are you working with right now? I didn't hear it.
Oh, yeah, because I didn't say it.
Let me ask you a question in the space that you didn't say it. So I'm going to kind of dance around it. I'm really curious about, you know, working within your own space by yourself, and working with what did we say? That which cannot be named. What's different? What do you find? How does that energy change from working by yourself and within that environment, in your environment?
Well, we're literally at the beginning of something. So, and even then, there's no guarantees on how far it would go. Obviously, we always try and do our best, but you know, I think me working right, because I'm not a writer. So me actually writing, I'm having to learn a lot about writing. I've been watching like loads of videos, like breaking down and analyzing films and scripts and arcs, and I have so much to learn. Like, so I'm very out of my comfort zone. And like I was saying before, writing is one of those things I'm finding where I've gone through the whole day and I've put down lots of words and paragraphs, but then I don't feel like I've done anything. Whereas when I'm animating or when I'm drawing, it's like, okay, design a character. By the end of the day, I've got about 5-10 pages full of sketches of characters, and So you feel like you're working with, it's almost like understanding that it's a completely different process.
But if you work on the weak things, you become stronger at those weak things, right? So
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a struggle for sure, but I'm not opposed to doing it. It's like it's just one of those things that I have to do, and luckily I have access to good people around me that can look over things and help me through it. Like that's another thing with animation. It's like it's just a very collaborative thing. It's very hard to do.
I have a
I
question.
don't know many people that do animation by yourself, but
So
yes, sir.
So when I write or when I'm directing, especially, I need to do storyboard. And so my storyboard process is I'm looking for images all over the internet. That's how I do my, because I can't draw. And so I can see the story in my head without the writing. But I'm curious, when you draw, when you're animating, do you see the story laying out completely in images? I would think that's what you see. You see the story laid out in images that can be translated to easily. Well, I guess it's a little difficult for you to write, but do you see the story completely laid out in your head when you're doing it? You understand my question?
Yeah. Mostly, I think like so Grand Piton, for instance, like I saw sequences that I wanted to flesh out. Normally, so if we're working on a commercial project, the agency or the client would bring us their idea or their script, and then we would look at it, and then as I'm reading through it, straight away I can see what kind of camera angle I should use for this, or like I start visualizing it. But it's almost like you're flooded with loads of things that you've seen before. Like there's a language to film, I guess, that we're all accustomed to, like we're all used to seeing. And I think that's what happens. And then it's like, as you start drawing, it's almost like variations of that, or like just pushing those ideas a bit further. So one thing I can't do, so I can storyboard, but I can't, when I'm storyboarding, I have no idea how long something will take. So like storyboard artists have got this incredible talent where they can get a page, do, 5 or 10 panels on each page, storyboard a sequence, and by looking at the page, they know how long something will take, what it will feel like, etc. I can't do that. I have to do it in a timeline, because I think I can animate it first. I think when I'm storyboarding, I actually storyboard in a timeline. So it's almost like an animated, well, it's what you call an animatic. So yeah, I've never just storyboarded pages. I've done it for like live action, but live action is slightly different because it's like you're not having to think, or at least for me, I'm not having to think. The thinking isn't as detailed for me.
Right.
Whereas when I'm doing animation, I'm thinking about just how long each sequence will take, how many layers is going to go in that sequence, how big does the background have to be. It's like you have to think about so many things. And in order for me to do that properly, I might thumbnail it quickly on a page, but once I start, right, I want this sequence, then I just do it in a timeline.
Based on what you just said, and what basically you can go from starting pose to the end pose to the one in between, right? So either you're in betweening all of that, or you're having someone in the studio in between that, and based on the number of frames, you can see how fast or slow that action can be, right?
Yeah. Yes, but I would, and that's the thing. A storyboard artist might be like first pose and last pose, but I would draw at least two or three poses in between that.
Right.
Because I can't, if I just do two poses, my sense of timing is completely off. And then when I have to actually animate those poses in there, all of a sudden now I don't have enough time. I guess I do it that way because, like, on the back end, when you start production, I want to leave. I don't want to be experimenting in production necessarily. I want to have everything worked out in storyboards and animatics. So by the time I get to production, if I have to add a second onto a scene or take off 2 seconds, it's not too bad. But if I'm adding on 5 or 10 seconds, that can get exponentially bad for a production, and then you start arguing with your producer. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I have a question.
So I know about what you're talking about.
So I have a question. So you guys do a lot of different types of animation. Have you worked extensively with any game companies? Because we got a question about gaming earlier in the panel.
Yeah. So we've worked with, I think, 3 game companies now. So I directed 3 projects. I've done one with Riot Games. There's another one that's on our website. What was the other one? Yeah, Riot Games. So we did the True Damage video last year.
Okay.
And then there was one, it's like a kind of, they do retro games, Chucklefish.
Okay.
So I did an intro. So I think a lot of games companies now are like, you know, they want like a cool intro sequence to their game or whatever, or even just a trailer or something. Like, and you know, what you're drawing might not necessarily look anything like what's in the game, but it's still like a cool thing. It's still like a cool thing to see for them to, like, you know, to have those characters like kind of fleshed out in a big action sequence or
Gotcha. It's always,
so, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I used to play the RPGs, and I'm more of an action RPG person now, but I used to play the RPGs, and they have all these cool cinematics and all this stuff animated in the beginning, and then you play the game.
Yeah.
Nothing like what I just saw, and I'm just like, oh no.
Oh, yeah. I gotta say, a prime example of that was Transformers, the commercials. You would see this awesome animated sequence, right? You know, and then, you know, having, you know, then get to the kids, you know, messing with the toys and whatever. Yeah. Then you see the series. I'm like, what the hell happened? You see this wonderful, wonderful thing. It's glorious. It's beautiful. You go to the TV series, like, yeah. It's so, that's so frustrating.
Washington do not necessarily represent all the opinions of everyone affiliated with Action Fest. Disclaimers out there.
But I think it depends. For me. Like, even shows like, you know, like Thundercats, for instance, which is still like one of my all-time favorite opening like sequences to like any like even like when I did Ninja Rabbit, people were like, oh, I can see where you were really influenced by Thundercats. So I'm like, of course, like I'm influenced by the best out there, and the Thundercats are the best out there. But there's some episodes that might be a little bit dodgy, and there's a couple of episodes that are really animated really well, and I think that's just down to like timing and production. You know, like not every episode can be as good as the intro sequence, and then there's some or even parts of an episode. So if you look at like a lot of you know, what's that famous not that I've watched Boruto, I've watched the movie but I haven't actually watched the series, but there's like a famous, I think episode 63 or 62, like where it's like they had all these new animators on it, and like the animation sequence in it is insane. Like what
we're talking about, you're talking about
animes.
Boruto.
Boruto. I think it's episode 63. I could be wrong, but it's either 62 or 63. But it's like a very famous episode where it's like,
you guys,
there's an action sequence in it for like, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and they just go insane, and it's like mind-boggling how they get that in the series.
I gotta look it up because I'm curious. Because if you see here, I don't know if you can see this. These are the sneakers I ordered.
Oh, damn!
That is Itachi, and that said,
wow,
what a trip!
Did Nike actually make that?
No.
Wow.
That's a
It took me like 2 months to get them, man. It was
I need that on my shelf, man.
dude, I'm an Itachi fan. Who's put it out there? Itachi's my man's. The man was committed. But speaking of, you mentioned the Turbo Atomic Ninja Rabbit. I'm gonna try to see if we can show people. I put some links in the watch party we got going on. I'm gonna try to see if I can show people the majesty of Ninja Rabbit, because you know, that's actually how we got to. That's how I actually got to see you. That's how we got to see you the first time. I was like, hey man, this guy's doing some amazing work. If I can figure out how to move it to the right screen, because I don't know how to use any of this stuff. There it is. Boom.
We can see the video, Ben.
Yeah, we can see it. Just play it.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah, we can see it.
play. There you go.
It's playing. I've seen this.
Trying to advertise for free.
Lines and everything.
Always. Look at those beats. Look at those beats. Right?
Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that giraffe is hard. Okay?
Yeah, the energy. That's energy.
Oh.
That's all they get. That's all they get for free. That's all they get. Okay?
Cool. Like that.
Yeah, that was bananas. We're in a film fest and someone played that. I said, what are we looking at right now?
Yep.
This is hard. When does it come out? Is there a Kickstarter? What are we doing? That was my reaction when I first saw that.
Very nice.
Yeah, people have been asking me for years when I'm going to make it into a series. I definitely want to. I've written some stuff down and we've done some sort of development work for it. So it might be a while, but I do want to do something with it. I just felt like I think Grand Piton was just a lot more personal and a bit more important, which is why I'm working on that at the moment. But
gotcha.
Admittedly, when I watched Mighty Grand Piton, that actually affected me a little bit more, because I got to see, it could be any child, but I got representation from a dark little, little black little girl, which you don't see at all. And if you see that, and if you do see him, you see him with big lips. You see him with, just complete non-representation of non-accurate. They don't represent black people. They're more it's more insulting. So when I saw Mighty Grand Piton, it blew me away. I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Along with the water, the girl running at little boy running at her running really fast, but past the little brother, the emotion that went with that, having that a boy and his dog kind of thing with the girl and the giant robot. I don't blame you. Plus you got the whole mecha thing with the robots.
We need to see that.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it, I promise.
See, I agree.
I always say that, like even with Ninja Rabbit, I was like, yeah, I'm working on it. So but this one I am definitely and again, like just building up the company and, like trying to get to a place where the company's basically kind of sustaining itself has taken a while as well. So even if I wanted to do Ninja Rabbit straight afterwards, I think it would have been very difficult, at least to do it on our terms. And I feel like anything we're developing now, like we definitely will. I mean, I think we probably would have to partner up with someone, but I think because we have our own company, our own infrastructure, I think we have a lot more. We can definitely have a lot more say in what we put in and what we don't put in, just simply because we've, you know, we're doing it ourselves. Whereas I think back then, where you're kind of like almost independent, like it's very easy for your ideas to kind of, not that I'm saying anyone has tried to do so would do this, but it's very easy for your ideas to kind of get sidetracked, or, you know, your vision being distorted because you're, you know, a bigger company's paying for you to kind of make this thing, and it just starts going in a direction you might not necessarily want it to.
Did you see, or has anyone come to you as far as producers, studios, whatever, saw any of your pieces and offered you a contract or something to produce this?
A few.
And
some big names.
Why did you turn them down?
He wants creative control, probably.
I know.
Yeah, partly. So can you guys hear me properly still?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, cool. I think sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's the format. So, you know, companies have it's a host of things. Like it could be, you know, maybe you'd have to give up a lot more of it than you want to. Or it could be, you know, they're looking for a feature film, whereas it's weird. I've seen so many incredible animated feature films that just don't, for some reason or whatever, only stays within the animation community or within a subculture. It never gets, I don't know, that even bigger names like, you know, Iron Giant, for instance, which I think is an incredible film, but that just never got marketed in the way it should have. And it's only really like you know, and I'm not complaining from that, but it's like, you know, it's only like Disney or Pixar or DreamWorks, like the bigger companies or Sony that get that kind of marketing, like, you know, Spider-Verse, incredible film.
So,
you know?
So they need to have not only make the film, but have the back end of actually advertising it so it can be a project.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's and with 2D animation as well, it's like, it's one of those things where, I mean, when was the last time you saw a 2D animated film in the cinema? Like, I've seen some, you know, Ernest and Celestine. There's one called is it the long? I can't remember the name of it now.
They got
There's so many.
Gromit all day.
Huh?
They got Wallace and Gromit all day.
Yeah, and the thing is, I love those. It's like, it's not like I'm against 3D animation. I love 3D animation, and I love any animation that gets to the cinema is a win as far as I'm concerned. But like 2D animation, especially from France, like there's a film I saw. I think it's done really well in China, actually. It's a Chinese film. It's a Legend of Hai. It's it's incredible, like, this film, like 2D animated film, and you just don't see that promoted. So whereas I think if you go the series route, you kind of build up a bigger following over a longer period of time. I could be completely wrong. I'm not a marketing expert or anything like that, but I just feel like
there are people that didn't find, like, that are just watching Naruto, you know, and I have friends, like, I just introduced my wife to One Punch Man, and this is hilarious. She has no reason to have seen it. It had to get through the fans, early adopters, and then finally we bring in people and tell them.
Yeah. Whereas if you released a One Punch movie in a cinema, I don't see it doing well. Like, not because it's bad, it's just because people don't really know about it. Like, it's very, whereas like you know, anyone who's watched it on Netflix, I mean, I love One Punch Man. Like, I'm in love with that show. So, and again, it's always a series that seem like to get some sort of traction. Whereas when you talk about movies, even with other animators, when I talk about some of the animated movies I've seen, they haven't seen it because again, it just doesn't get, unless you're like following sites like Katsuko or Cartoon Brew or anything like that, you just don't really see it. So and again, I could be completely wrong, but the way I've always thought of it is like, if I do a series and that happens to people happen to love that, then maybe I can make a movie off of that. But I would hate to make a movie, because making a movie is a lot of work and you don't know. I mean, animation is a lot of work, period. But I think making a movie because you want to give it that fidelity and all that detail and have all, you know, shadow levels and this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And for it not to be seen is kind of heartbreaking to me. And I don't really want to put myself through that just yet.
That's the struggle of all independent filmmakers. And it's funny, I'm actually looking at your page right now for the Mighty Grand Piton. And I just want to throw this out there. Maybe see if we can get Wesley to blush a little bit. One person writes, y'all need to stop playing and make a series. That's the first comment on your page. They're like,
I've been getting that.
like, right? For real. They really do. That's what everybody's saying. It says, it has an animation of an anime, but the design and style of an American cartoon. This looks pretty great. Then the guy says, the first watch, it's like Gigantor, but in the Caribbean. If you watch it, he's a mighty grand. So like, people are watching this project and they definitely want to see more of it. So
do you think that well, the trend right now because of COVID is moving towards animation? So this is a really fantastic opportunity, a time to look at your gift that can come out into the space a little bit more.
Got an advantage.
You also
have an advantage on us.
The music.
We'll champion you any way you need.
Yes. Yes. You also have that, what's her name? Rena May?
Yeah.
She can sing her ass off. I bought Grand Piton on Amazon, Amazon Play.
Support.
Thanks, man.
My daughter knows she's a baby glad. I bought it, you know, your ancillary stuff and stuff. You have it. So
gotcha.
Up and down the chain, you have all this behind you, all parts of the production behind you. So yeah.
No, I mean, I'm definitely, and like I said, I could be completely wrong about maybe like if I was just to go straight to feature, maybe that would, because you just, I mean, you put stuff out there, you just don't know how big it's going to be.
I like a series idea. The series idea.
I like a series.
I just think a series, it's like you get time, you spend more time with the characters. There's something about waking up, you know, even when I was growing up, waking up on Saturday morning, putting on Galaxy Rangers, or there's something about that has never left me. Whereas cinema experience is something slightly different. Like, you know, you get up, you get your cereal, you watch your series, whatever it is, like in the comfort of your own home. I think there's something to that. It's like, I'm not opposed to doing movies or anything like that. It's just more like, I think I'm looking at this through the lens of my own childhood, and I'm like, I would have loved to see this on the TV.
Spend more time with the characters.
But also, there's another good example. It's like, look at World of Warcraft, right? So if you had World of Warcraft just come out with the movie that they did with all the budget, this is World of Warcraft. Okay, it probably would have done okay, but after having multiple games, you found your audience, you've marketed multiple clips and scenes and games to your audience. Now when your movie comes out, there's people who are like dying to see this thing. So I think that's a very strong way to get that out there. And also like I've watched every Naruto movie that's come out because I've watched the whole series. And so I wanted to see and I already knew I was invested. You know what I mean? So I was,
Yeah.
you released them, I was buying them. I've watched every DC movie. I've watched every Marvel movie. The DC movies are better, even though Marvel is best. DC animated movies are better. I have to.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Hats off. Just saying, but because I was already invested in these characters, I was willing to watch every movie they put out.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, like, we have thought about at the line, and we've discussed it at length. And I think, you know, I really, and I don't just want to do a series for doing series sake. I really want it to be like a high quality series, because if the line are going to do it and we're going to be leading that charge, we want it to be good. We don't want it to come out and be, you know, so it'd probably be like a 6-8 episodes or something, rather than doing 13-14 episodes, and then you can't get the quality in every single episode. So really, like, I mean, we got a long road ahead of us, and like, again, and we've had an amazing response, not just from where, you know, my family's from St. Lucia, all over the Caribbean, all over the world, like people of different backgrounds, ethnicities and stuff.
Right. How do you say it?
St. Lucia?
Nope.
What?
Caribbean. Caribbean?
Okay. I say Caribbean. You say Caribbean. You guys say Caribbean.
Okay. So on that
Is
note,
it Dominica or Dominica?
on that note, we have, as much as I like to go on, we have to get. But are there any other projects, upcoming projects, commercial, personal, otherwise, that you want to advertise real quick?
Nothing. No, nothing I could talk about, unfortunately.
Well, again, world premiere right here. You don't mind.
We
do have some things, just like small, like what we normally do, like commercial projects that,
right.
You know, we'll be releasing later on this year. We are working on a game, actually. So one of the directors is working on a kind of small, kind of beautiful looking little game sort of thing. So
really,
we're excited about that. But yeah, we're just like, you know, we're doing well with the commercial stuff. So, you know, and we're just attracting a lot of talent as well. So we're working with some really good people that,
okay,
you know, and we're able to kind of like have this environment for them to kind of like shine and, you know, experiment and do things. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we would like to invite you back, not only to next year's festival, but a couple times or 1 or 2 times throughout the year, so we can have a chat.
Because, no problem, man.
You know,
hopefully next year I can be there in person.
Well,
hey,
yeah, also
I don't mind.
When you're doing these events,
I'm down for that, man.
These projects that are coming out, make sure you send us like trailers or whatever, so we can share. You know, Austin Action Fest isn't supposed to just be about this moment right here. It's like ongoing throughout the year when filmmakers and animators are creating this content. Send it to us. We push it out to our people on our Facebook and on our social media. If we're all, you know, small and independent, and we don't have the networks that Hollywood has, it means we got to be more unified culturally than Hollywood is, and that's how we can overcome any sort of, you know, problems or lacks of resources.
Right.
And on that note, what's the best way for people to follow you, keep up what you got going on? What social media or whatever is the best way to track you?
So you could look at, so it's the line, I can't remember now, Instagram, Line Animation, Instagram, my Instagram, Libra Bear, although I haven't posted in a while.
No, you
Sorry.
haven't. Not that I know.
But Facebook, I'm not really on. I'm not on that much, actually. So yeah, it's mostly Instagram for me.
Okay.
Basically, so yeah, I'm going to start posting again soon. But
okay.
I've been kind of
well, it's good to have you.
Yeah.
We'll be speaking again, whatever format that you're comfortable with. And we have our next panelist, Michelle. But thank you, Wes.
Thank you, guys. Nice talking to you.
Very much.
Good luck with the rest of the festival. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.